We continue now at the top of Daf Chafala from Meseches Bava Kamma. This is Bava Kamma Daf 21b. On the previous summit, the Gemara had a second version of a machlokas between Rav and Shmuel, and the case is as follows. Let's say you have a situation where a person puts fruits in his own property, but then he really withdraws his property and he makes it as if those fruits are really in the Rishus HaRavim because his property is right up against the Rishus HaRavim. So in that situation, it's machlokas between Rav and Shmuel. Rav says in that situation, we're going to say that the owner of the animal which ate the fruits, the owner of the animal is actually patur because it's considered like it really is that the fruits are in Rishus HaRavim. But Shmuel is going to say it's chayiv because really that fruit is in the person's own property. It's not in the Rishus HaRavim, and therefore it's not considered a case of shein in Rishus HaRavim, and the owner of the animal is going to have to pay for the damages. And the Gemara suggested on the previous summit that maybe Rav and Shmuel, that same machlokas Rav and Shmuel would apply in the reverse when it comes to the situation of bor b'reshuso. The case of bor b'reshuso is, let's say a person digs a pit in his own property, but then he makes his property that it's hefker, that it's ownerless, as if it really is a bor in Rishus HaRavim. So we should suggest that according to Rav, the Gemara said, for example, according to Rav will say that bor b'reshuso is actually chayiv, meaning the person, it's as if he really put a bor in Rishus HaRavim, and that's why it's chayiv. And that's why in the situation of the fruits, when the animal eats from the fruits, so we're going to say that the owner of the animal is patur, because it's really as if that fruit is in Rishus HaRavim, and therefore the owner of the animal is not responsible when the animal goes ahead and eats that fruit. And so the Gemara says not necessarily. Rav will respond to you, really, bi'alma bor b'reshuso pater. Could be Rav will say that bor b'reshuso is actually pater, because in that situation it is not considered to be as if it is in Rishus HaRavim. But v'shani hacha, but it's different over here. Here the reason why the animal of the owner is also pater when he eats from the fruit, diyamar, because he's able to say, lav kol kaminach, de mikareves lehu lepeirosech l'Rishus HaRavim, because you don't really have the rights to make your fruits go so close to the Rishus HaRavim, u'mechayeves lehu Torah, and that way obligate me to pay for what my ox eats. That you're not able to do, even though really bor b'reshuso is pater, it's considered his own rishus. But in terms of the animal who's eating from the fruits, it really is considered to be like a Rishus HaRavim, and therefore the owner of the animal is going to be pater according to Rav. Rashi explains, ba'alma bor b'reshuso pater, it could be that really bor b'reshuso is pater, to lo chayiv Torah elal bor b'Rishus HaRavim, because the Torah only says you're chayiv when the bor is actually in Rishus HaRavim. Here it's bor b'reshuso. Rabbi Shmuel time like Rabbi Shmuel learns later on, and again it's different over here. You're not able to put your fruits in such a situation, in such a position where that's going to obligate me to pay when the ox goes ahead and eats it. Shmuel Amar, and the Gemara says Shmuel will also be able to say that it's not necessarily true. Bi'alma bor b'reshuso chayiv. It could be that really bor b'reshuso is chayiv because that really is considered to be like putting the bor right there in Rishus HaRavim. But the bishlama bor, but that makes sense by a bor. Ikol l'meimer lavadaiti. So there you can say the bor is something the person doesn't see. It does damage. You're not able to see the bor, and therefore the animal falls into the pit or whatever it is that happens. But ela peiros. But when it comes to the fruits, mi'ikol l'meimer lavadaiti, there you can't say that it wasn't noticed. Hachazilu, because clearly the animal did see the fruit and he went ahead and he ate the fruit. In other words, what Shmuel is arguing is that it could be that bor b'reshuso is chayiv because it's something that is not visible. The bor is not visible, and therefore it's as if you put the bor right in Rishus HaRavim and you're chayiv. But when it comes to putting the fruits there in that area, we don't say that it's as if the fruits are in the area of Rishus HaRavim and you're pater, because they're really not technically in Rishus HaRavim. It really is his own property. And in terms of saying that it's not visible to the animal, it clearly is visible to the animal. The animal sees it and eats it, and therefore Shmuel will say that in that case the owner of the animal is going to be chayiv, as Rashi says, bi'alma bor b'reshuso chayiv hoel vifkiro. Again, the reason why bor b'reshuso is chayiv is because he made the area ownerless. It's as if it really is in Rishus HaRavim. V'hacha my time of behema shachalt and chayivis. But why is it that over here, when the animal eats it, so the owner of the animal is chayiv, to bishlam bor ikol l'meimer lavadai to the shore l'nature nafshe mi bor. It's not going to be, the shore is not going to be aware to protect himself from the pit. V'kevan de rishus nichnas, and since he entered that area b'rishus, it was an area that is now ownerless, almost like a Rishus HaRavim. So hefker rishuso, because he made his rishus hefker, chayiv balabor, the owner of the balabor is chayiv. Avol peiros, but when it comes to the fruits, haka chazi luhu, the animal clearly sees the fruits. Ve'afilu huchluk abahen pater, and even if he would slip on them, we would say pater in that case, because it's something that is visible. Ve'afagav dechol takola boru. Now, even though any stumbling block is considered a bor, hani mili b'Rishus HaRavim. That's only true in Rishus HaRavim. De'en lo rishus losses sham takola, where you don't have permission to put the takola over there. But when it comes to this case, where it really is his area that he's making ownerless, that's not the same as Rishus HaRavim. We can make a distinction, says Rashi, between cases where it's not visible and cases where it is visible to the animal. And the Gemara continues, Lema mechazeres tanoihi. The Gemara says, let us say the mechazeres, again, that's the case where the animal is really standing in the Rishus Rishus Harabim, but turns its head to the sides of the Rishus Harabim, let's say that's a machlokas tanoim in terms of whether that's considered Rishus Harabim, and we say shein b'Rishus Harabim is patur, or whether it's not considered Rishus Harabim, and we would say chayiv, and it's a machlokas tanoim as follows. The Tanyas we learned in a brisa, achla mitoch harachav, if the animal eats from within the street, meshalemes mashenenis, so then you only have to pay for the benefit that was derived, you don't have to pay for the damages, that's shein b'Rishus Harabim, mitzidei harachava, but if it's from the sides of the street, meshalemes mashizika, so then the payment has to be the amount of the damages. Divrei Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, that's the opinion of Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Lazar, Omer, and Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Lazar, they say, Ein darko lechol el halach. It's not the normal way of an animal to eat, rather the normal way of the animal is to walk. And so the question is, what exactly are Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Lazar saying? The Gemara says, Rabbi Yossi hainu Tana Kamma. The Gemara initially assumes Rabbi Yossi seems to be saying the same as the Tana Kamma. And Rashi explains Rabbi Yossi hainu Tana Kamma. Rabbi Yossi seems the same as the Tana Kamma. Because right now the Gemara thinks the lava tocher chava koi Rabbi Yossi de leboy de lechayve. It can't be that Rabbi Yossi is saying that atocher chava. Maybe you'll say that Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Lazar are coming and saying that in the middle of the street you're chayiv, even though the Tana Kamma said patra. That can't be. Because we know the pasuk says it has to be another person's field and not Rishus Harabim. It must be whatever they're saying. They're certainly talking about the second case of Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. They're talking about the case of Tzidei Rechava, where Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda said chayiv, and they're responding to that case. And they're saying it's not the way of the animal to eat; it's only to walk. And they must be responding that the animal here, when he's eating, is chayiv. But if that's what they're saying, that's identical to the Tana Kamma. Tana Kamma already said chayiv by tzidei harachava, and then they would also be saying chayiv. They're saying it's not normal for it to eat; it's only normal for it to walk when it comes to tzidei harachava, and therefore chayiv. That's the identical shita of the Tana Kamma. And so then the Gemara suggests ela mechazeres ika beinayu. So rather, what it must be is the machlokas between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Lazar really is mechazeres. Is exactly our case, as Rashi says mechazeres ika beinayu tishamina Rabbi Meir, because they heard Rabbi Meir say that at the sides of the street you pay for the damages. But they understood that to mean that the case specifically is when the animal is standing at the side of the street, his entire body. But if the animal just turns its head, then it wouldn't be chayiv in that case. Rabbi Yossi says, no, that's not normal to turn the head and eat. The normal thing is to walk. And that's why Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Lazar are saying this animal that turned its head is going to be chayiv. That must be the machlokas tanoim over here. Ela mechazeres ika beinayu. Again, the machlokas must be by mechazeres. Tana Kamma savar mechazeres nami meshalim mashenenes. And Tana Kamma says mechazeres also. The animal is still in the Rishus Harabim, only pays the benefit. Rabbi Yossi savar meshalemes mashizik. And Rabbi Yossi says no, you pay. It's not a normal thing to do, and therefore you have to pay for the full damages. And the Gemara continues, no, it could be that's not the machlokas tanoim. The kuli alma machzeres ikravi kashmul. It could be that everybody agrees in the case of mechazeres, either like Rav that we say mechazeres is chayiv, or like Shmuel who says mechazeres is pater. It could be everybody agrees on that point. And here they're actually arguing on the entire interpretation of the pasuk of ubir b'stei acher, meaning maybe they are actually arguing about shein b'Rishus Harabim, mar savar ubir b'stei acher v'lo b'Rishus Harabim. The Tana Kamma, meaning Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, they say it says ubir b'stei acher, the animal is grazing in another person's field, but not in Rishus Harabim, meaning shein in Rishus Harabim is pater, according to Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. And it could be Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Lazar actually disagree with that point. Umar Savar, the other master, says ubir b'stei acher v'lo b'Rishus Hamazik. You're going to be chayiv if you have the animal grazing in another person's field, but not if it's happening in the Rishus Hamazik. Let's say the nizik puts his fruits in the mazik's field, so that's what it means. The pasuk is saying in that case the shein is going to be pater, and therefore in Rishus Harabim, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Lazar, they're actually arguing ein darko lechol el halach, that even in Rishus Harabim the normal way of the animal is not to eat but to walk, and shein is going to be chayiv in Rishus Harabim according to Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Lazar. But the Gemara says, B'Rishus Hamazik, is the pasuk really saying that shein is pater in the Rishus Hamazik? That's so obvious. You don't need a pasuk. Lema perich b'Rishusi, my boy. The person can just say, what is your fruit doing in my property? Of course, we're going to say pater in that case. And so therefore the Gemara says that is not the proper interpretation of the machlokas tanoim between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda on one side and Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Lazar on the other side. And so instead the Gemara suggests Ela the ilf of Rabbi Oshia ika beinayu. It could be that Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Lazar are arguing in the cases of ilfa and the case of ilfa and the case of Rabbi Oshia. And Rashi explains the ilfa of Rabbi Oshia, the Amar ilfa le'el, because ilfa said earlier behema shepashtat savar va'achla So let's say an animal's in Rishos Harabim, sticks out its neck and eats from on top of another animal. So in that case, that's not considered Rishos Harabim anymore because it's on the top of the other animal. So Ilfa said chayeves in that case. Also, Reb Oshi had a case where the animal jumps up and eats from the basket. In that case, chayev. So it could be those cases are machlokas between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda on the one side and Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Elazar on the other. Ika Beinayu, Rashi explains Rabbi Meir savar, because Rabbi Meir holds mitoch harachava li'olam pater. If the animal's in the street, is always pater. El lefi mashenenis, you only pay the amount of benefit that was derived. V'afilu b'di'ilfa of Rabbi Oshi, even in the cases of Ilfa and Rabbi Oshia, that's still considered to be toch harachava. It's still considered to be Rishos Harabim, and they're going to say pater in that case. V'asar Rabbi Yossi l'meimer, and then Rabbi Yossi is coming and Rabbi Elazar is coming to say, Ein darko lifshot savar al chaver tano. It's not normal to stick out the neck. The animal sticks out its neck over its friend. Ve'ein darko lichfot miderech v'lechol, to jump and to eat. El lahalech, the normal thing is to walk. Ve'isle to ilfod Rabbi Oshi, and therefore Rabbi Yossi is agreeing with Ilfa and Rabbi Oshi and is saying that in those situations the owner of the animal is going to be chayiv. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Hakelev v'hagadisha kaftu merosh hagag. Let's say you have a dog or a kid goat that jump from the top of a roof. V'shavru hakelim, and they break vessels that are on the bottom. Mishalim nezek shalim, the payment is going to be nezek shalim, mipnei shehein muadin, because they're considered to be muad. That is a normal kind of a behavior for an animal to do, and therefore you're going to be chayiv to pay nezek shalim. Hakelev shenat al charara, let's say a dog takes a biscuit, v'halach legadish, and goes to a pile of grain. Achal hacharara, eats the biscuit, v'hidlikas hagadish, and lights the pile of grain on fire. Al charara mishalim nezek shalim, on the biscuit, the payment is going to be nezek shalim, the full damage. Ve'al hagadish mishalim chatzi nezek, and on the pile of grain, the payment is going to be chatzi nezek, it's only going to be half. Rashi says Mimnei shein muadin, because it's considered that they're already warned against likvots, against jumping. That's a normal animal behavior. Over Rishos HaNizek Kamma, we're talking this happens in the property of the Nizik. The Tolda the Regel, this is a regular Tolda of Regel that happens in the property of the Nizik, and that's why you're chayiv to pay nezek shalim. Al hacharora mishalim nezek shalim, on the biscuit you pay full price. To have a shein b'rishos hanizik, that's a regular case of shein in the property of the nizik. Ve'al hagadish chatzi nezek, and on the pile of grain is chatzi nezek mefarish b'gemara. That's going to be explained in the Gemara. The Gemara says taima dekaftu, the reason why the case by the kelev and the gedi, the reason why it's chayiv to pay nezek shalim is because the animals, they jumped from the top of the roof. Hanaflu pater, but let's say the animals, they wouldn't have jumped, they're on the top of the roof, and instead they fall off and they cause the damage. Apparently, the halacha would be pater. Alma kasavar tchilaso b'pshia v'sofa ba'onis pater. You see that the Tana of our Mishnah holds that if in the beginning there is negligence, in this case it's a situation of negligence, the owner should have realized that the animals might jump and cause damage, but in the end it was an onus. In the end it was an accident because the animals fell off the roof. So it seems like the Tana of our Mishnah holds that tchilaso b'pshia and sofa ba'onis is pater. Rashi says tchilaso b'pshia di boila suke adaita dilma kafzi dahar chayu likvots. It's normal for the animals to jump from the roof. The owner should have been aware. That's considered negligence on the part of the owner. V'sofa ba'onis, but in the end it was really an accident to hanaflu because the animals just fell. Unafilo lo havale la suke adaita, the owner, it didn't have to occur to the owner that they might fall. And again, so therefore, it seems from our Mishnah, tchilaso b'pshia v'sofa ba'ones is pater. And the Gemara says, Tanya nami hachi, we have a brisa like this as well. Hakela v'agadisha kaftu merosh hagag. If the dog or the kid goat jump from the top of the roof, v'shavru es hakelim, and they break the vessels, mishalim nezek shalim, he has to pay the full amount of the damages. Naflu peturim, but if they fall, in that case, we'll say pater again, seems to be tchilaso b'pshia, v'sofa ba'ones is pater. The Gemara says, now, hanichol aman da'amar tchilaso b'pshia, v'sofa ba'ones pater. Well, this interpretation of the Mishnah is good, according to the Amoru who says this is a machlokas Amoraim in Babba Metzia. So according to the one who says that tchilaso b'pshia v'sofa ba'ones is pater, that interpretation of our Mishnah makes sense. El aman da'amar chayiv, but according to the one who says, according to the Amoru who says tchilaso b'pshia v'sofa ba'ones is chayiv, Michael, remember, what are you going to say over here in our Mishnah? It seems clear from the Mishnah that tchilaso b'pshia v'sofa ba'ones is pater. And the Gemara continues and answers, Kagon de Mekarvi Kalim Lagabe Kosel. When the Brisa says that if the animals fall, so then we say the owner of the animals are pater, that's a situation where the vessels are very close to the wall. So therefore, if the animals would actually jump off the roof, they wouldn't fall on the vessels because they would overshoot. And so therefore, if the animals end up falling off the roof and causing damage to those vessels, that's not considered to be tchilaso b'pshia. It was not considered to be negligence because there was no chance in that scenario that by jumping they would have hit those vessels, and therefore that is a situation where it is not tchilaso b'pshia v'sofa b'onus, but it's completely considered to be an onus, and that's why the Brisa says that in the case of naflu, naflu, the Brisa says peturin. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Zvid Mishmei de Rava. Rav Zvid says in the name of Rava, Pa'amim sha'afilu naflu nami chayiv. There are cases where even if the animal falls from the roof, the owner of the animal is going to be chayiv. Mashkachas lo bekosel ru'ah. The case could be, let's say you have a wall that is very weak, that can break easily. And the Gemara says, "My niu." So, what is the situation where we're saying you're chayiv? Why are you chayiv in this case? The boy leila suke daita the nafel orchi, because the person you're saying that the owner should have occurred to the owner that maybe the bricks would fall, and so therefore it's a tchilaso b'pshia. But the Gemara says, but still, sof. But at the end, if the animal ended up falling and it's not the wall that fell apart, so lo nafal orchi v'nafal inu. Let's say the bricks did not fall and instead the animals fell. Tchilaso b'pshia v'sofa bonus. So isn't that the same case of tchilaso b'pshia and sofa bonus? So how is Rav Zvid saying in the name of Rava that in that case when they fall chayiv again, that's a case of tchilaso b'pshia v'sofa bonus, which was the machlokas amoraim that we quoted before. And the Gemara says, lo, no, tzrich, it's necessary, the case is necessary, bekosel tsar, we're talking about a situation where it's a very narrow wall, and so in that situation, it should have occurred to the owner that the animal would actually fall from the top of the roof, and so in that situation, that's a case of naflu that is going to be chayiv. And the Gemara continues, Tana Rabban, and the rabbis taught, hakelev hagadisha dolgu mimata lamala patur, and if you have a dog or a kid goat that jumped from something below to something above and caused damage, so in that case, you're actually going to be patur from nezek shalim, because that's a strange kind of behavior. You'll pay chatzi nezek, says Rashi, melmala lamata, but if they jump from up above to down below, that's a normal kind of behavior, chayavin, so then you're going to be chayiv in that case to pay nezek shalim. Adam v'tarnagol shadolgu, when it comes to a person or a chicken. Now, when it comes to a person, we say there's no concept of tam anyway. Of course, you're going to pay full. But also a chicken, bein milmala lamata, bein milmata lamala. It doesn't matter if it's jumping from up to down or from down to up. In all situations, that's normal behavior for the tarnagol chayavin. The owner is going to have to pay the full amount, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Chav Beis Amud Aleph.